Hi and welcome to ECCB Connects. Have you ever experienced a lengthy loan application process? Would you like that process to be simpler and faster? On this week's episode of ECCB Connects, we discuss the implementation of the ECCU Credit Bureau, an entity that's designed to improve the efficiency of credit reporting and make accessing credit easier for you. Stay connected with us. We'll share more with you after this message.
Do you own or manage a business? Interested in saving time and money? How about expanding your business? Then, the Dcash Merchant app is for you. Receive digital EC payments instantly from Dcash customers anywhere via your smart device. Create invoices and track transactions easily in the app. And avoid the hassle of handling physical cash. Visit dcashec.com today for more information and to sign up. Dcash, the digital version of your EC dollar.
Lydia, welcome to ECCB Connects.
Thank you for having me, Karina.
Now, the ECCB has embarked on a journey to implement a credit bureau in the Eastern Caribbean Currency Union. In simple terms, explain to us what a credit bureau is.
A credit bureau is a type of credit reporting institution. It facilitates the information gathering process and it collects information from a variety of sources. So it collects information from non-financial entities as well as financial entities. So we look at our banks, our credit unions, our other credit granting institutions, our microfinance institutions, and our non-financial entities such as our utility companies, our water companies, electricity companies, cable, telephone, as well as our hire purchase companies. When the credit bureau collects that information, what it does, it compiles the information to create a credit history on a borrower. And what that credit history entails is really where a borrower has credit facilities and how well they have paid those credit facilities in the past and how well they're paying it now. Once it has generated that credit history, it will go ahead and compile a credit report that will be available to the financial entities, and so they could use that information on the credit report to assess the credit risk or to assess the credit worthiness of a borrower. And by credit worthiness, we mean the ability of a borrower to repay the existing financial obligations as well as the proposed credit facility that they are now looking for.
As it exists now in our financial system, the banks, credit unions, hire purchases, when an applicant comes to them, they usually run a credit history in terms of a credit check. So the customer has to fill out a consent form, and I know they make calls and what's not to get the information on the applicant's credit history. Given that that currently exists, why did the ECCB feel it necessary to introduce a credit bureau, the collection point for this credit information at this point in time?
So there are a variety of reasons for the ECCB to implement a credit bureau at this time. In response to your question, the current process, the current information gathering process to get that credit history from other financial institutions is a very tedious and long one. The financial institutions, they have to call the other financial institutions to get that credit history. And you can imagine that if a borrower has more than one facility at one entity or multiple entities,
the process is long.
Yeah, the process is long. It can take days. And think of it, if you want a loan or a credit facility at an institution and you probably want it right away, you may have to wait days before you could get that credit from the institution. So that was one of the reasons that the ECCB felt it necessary to implement a credit bureau, to establish a credit bureau. Also, it is going to reduce the time in terms of the credit administration, not just for the borrower, but for the bank as well, and speed up credit applications. So the importance of a credit bureau, that information is centralized and it is available at a click of a button. The ECCB also saw it necessary to facilitate the establishment of the ECCU Credit Bureau to reduce information asymmetries And what I mean by information asymmetries, it means that financial institutions do not necessarily have the complete information or the complete credit history of a borrower based on the method that they are currently gathering information. Because it takes so much time to get that credit information from the different financial entities, sometimes a financial institution may decide to go ahead with a loan based on trust, right? And but that customer may have other financial credits or loans that the financial institution do not know about. With the introduction of the Credit Bureau and the report, the credit report from the Credit Bureau, the financial institutions will be able to have at a click of a button and a snapshot of all the credit facilities that particular customer has, and so it reduces the unknown that exists. And so financial institutions now will be able to make a better determination in assessing the risk of the credit risk of a borrower.
And I'm sure likewise, if the customer has good credit standing, good credit history, it puts them in a better position to negotiate with some of these financial institutions.
Certainly, and that is another advantage to be gained from the Credit Bureau, because a financial institution can see at a snapshot that this customer, this borrower, has been paying their loans well. They may be inclined to give reduced interest rates based on the type of loan that is being sought. Also, to a lot of our lending in our region is collateral based, so you probably need a piece of land or you need to give cash to secure that lending from a financial institution. With the credit report, and if you have been a good customer, a financial institution may decide, based on the type of loan that you are seeking, to not take collateral for this particular arrangement, and so that is another benefit. Another reason why the Credit Bureau is so important is because it could facilitate financial inclusion. Currently, there are certain segments of the market that are not included in the formal financial system. And by that we mean we have some micro, small and medium enterprises, and we also have some self-employed individuals, for example, where their income is not consistent over time. So monthly, maybe some months they generate income, some months they don't. And for whatever reason, they may not have approached a financial institution for a formal credit. However, these people do access credit in the form of their utilities, because our utilities do provide credit. We use them on a month-to-month basis, and we pay them after we've consumed that service. So whether it be water, whether it be electricity, our telephone. Also, our credit, our hire purchase institutions facilitate credit. We buy our refrigerators, our stoves on credit. And so once that information is supplied to the Credit Bureau, these persons who have been previously underserved, they will now be able to generate a credit report based on that information from the utility companies and the hire purchase companies. They can now have that credit report, and the financial institutions can now use that credit report to make a decision on the lending for those people who have not been formally included in the financial sector.
Now, Lydia, you just spoke about how banks, hire purchase institutions formally would call these institutions to obtain information about the customers when the application process was ongoing. Talk to us about how the Credit Bureau, once implemented, will now be able to get that information on customers. How does that information flow into the Credit Bureau?
The financial institutions will be providing that information to the Credit Bureau via software. And so the Credit Bureau will be extracting that information from the software, which is supplied by the financial institutions. And so that information will be stored in the database of the Credit Bureau.
Likewise, how do the financial institutions then obtain this information to assess the applications of customers and businesses?
The financial institutions can only obtain that information via a credit report. So earlier I spoke about the Credit Bureau compiling a borrower's credit history and generating a credit report. The only way the financial institution can access that credit report is via a request from the borrower. So the borrower now has to give the financial institution consent to access that information. And that consent is usually by way of signing a consent form once they have gone to the financial institution to request a loan. What a borrower should know is if consent is not given, it may mean that they may not be able to access credit from that financial institution once the credit bureau has been established.
I see. So the customer, it's not as if the financial institution can go at a whim and fancy and obtain this information. The customer is in control of the information that the financial institution will access.
Yes, definitely, because we must appreciate that that information is confidential, it is sensitive information, and it must be protected. And unless you have gone to the financial institution and say, I want a loan, or for any other reason, the financial institution may require that credit report, they must have your consent to obtain that information from the credit bureau.
Lydia, you just spoke about one of the measures that's implemented to help keep this information about customers safe. What are the mechanisms in place to make sure that this sensitive information remains protected?
The credit reporting legislation, which comprises the Credit Reporting Act and the supporting regulations, they make provisions to ensure the security and the data protection of customers' information, and to ensure that that information is kept in a safe and secure manner, and that there are the highest levels of security for the confidentiality and storage of customers' information.
I know that a company has been selected, Credit Info, ECCU, to be the implementation agency for the Credit Bureau in our region. Tell us more about Credit Info.
Credit Info ECCU is actually owned by Credit Info, which is the head company. It is located, its primary operations are located in Prague, Czech Republic, and it has multiple locations all over the world. There is actually a regional presence, so there is Credit Info Jamaica, Credit Info Guyana, Credit Info Barbados, and now Credit Info ECCU Limited. Credit Info has had a long history of operating credit bureaus, and so they are very experienced in running credit bureaus, developing credit bureaus, implementing credit bureaus, as well as securing the data of customers. We are confident that Credit Info will serve the region well.
When is the Credit Bureau actually scheduled to come on stream in our currency union?
The Credit Bureau is expected to fully launch its operations in December of 2022, so December this year.
What are some of the activities that will take place in the lead up to the December 2022 launch?
There are several activities that will take place up to that launch in December. However, I will just mention the key activity, and that would be the public awareness or public education on credit bureaus. We are working with a team from Compet Caribbean who provides us with technical assistance, particularly with the execution of a communication strategy for public education and public awareness on the credit bureau. I should mention though that the focus is on women, so it's gender specific on women, and particularly because women have been so important in the development of the micro, small and medium enterprises sector. And so although the strategy is for the entire public, we do want to welcome women to use the credit bureau to facilitate their inclusion in the financial sector and to get access to credit.
Lydia, thank you for speaking with us today on ECCB Connects. We look forward to the implementation of the Credit Bureau, which will make accessing credit easier for the people of the ECCU.
Thank you for having me, Karina, and we are looking forward to the implementation of this important entity in our financial space.
And now for this week's financial tip.
Think ahead about what issues can affect your financial stability and put a plan in place to provide you with a financial safety net to address any substantial budgetary pressures, foreseen or unpredictable, that you may face in the future.
We've come to the end of this week's episode of ECCB Connects. Be sure to join us next week as we continue our discussion on the implementation of the ECCU Credit Bureau and discuss how the Credit Bureau works. Thanks for watching and see you then.